Softer. It's very nice being here. Thank you very much. I don't know why they got a coconut to do this, but you see, this is the thing. This is the thing about accents. This is the thing about diversity. People are going to be calling you things. People are going to be saying, yeah, but why are you not talking like this? Or why are you not doing this? And hoekom praat jy nie suiwer Afrikaans nie? Hoekom praat jy so? People are going to be saying all sorts of things about you, and there's nothing you can do about it, really. The best thing you can do is actually engage in conversation with people so that they get to know who the hell you are, what you're about, what your aspirations are, and what value you bring to life at the end of the day. So, today, I know I've been sent a couple of questions. I'm not one of those people that sticks to questions. We'll sort of make it up as it goes along. Today we're going to have this debate. You're obviously having this particular debate because it is an issue, whether it's a positive issue, negative issue, on campus. It's the reason why it was raised. And I'm going to first get our guests, Neil and Zuko, to introduce themselves to us. So, well, seeing as you've got such a cool hairstyle, let's start with you. Zuko, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Zuko. I'm 19 years old, I'm a first year student. I live in Volkenhof, and I study chemical. Yeah.
Let's hear it for Volkenhof. There you go.
I study chemical engineering, and apparently I'm your resident coconut.
Oh, welcome. He got offended when I called him a coconut, and then he said, what? I said, get over it. Neil, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Neil du Toit. I haven't been insulted yet, but that'll come. I'm the chairperson of the Debating Society, and I'm studying law.
This is probably not the right time for me to say Soti. Sorry, you asked for it. Now, let's talk about why we're having this debate in the first place. I just want to get the perspective from the two of you as to why you believe it's so important to have this debate in the first.
You know, you're a big flashmob.
people, those lovely people you see up there are world champions. So let's hear it for them, please. To get all of you into the studio, or try and get all of you into my studio to sing. The difficult thing is how I'm going to squeeze all of you in there. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. I don't know what you're doing at university. You should be out making millions on international stages somewhere. Wonderful. Well done. Thank you very much for that. Okay, it's time for us to continue this particular discussion. With me I've got Neil, I've got Zuko. We're going to talk about the importance of discussing accents, etc. So I think let's get back to the initial question. We'll just wait for everybody to quieten down a little bit so I can hear myself think. There we go. Thank you. Okay, Neil, let's start with you.
Thanks.
Why are we having this in the first place? Why is this debate taking place in the first place?
Well, I think it's quite a while overdue, and I'm glad that we've been given the chance during Diversity Week to do it. We at Stellenbosch, we really love arguing about languages, and we do that quite often. But I think we forget sometimes that the manifestation when we actually do settle on a particular decision, how that eventually ends up impacting people is through the accents in the end. So it's probably something we should be discussing along with language, but that hasn't happened very often. So I'm glad we're doing it now.
So there's a need for this particular debate. And if anybody else talks while they're talking, I'm happy to call you on stage to be part of the debate. If you don't know me yet, you'll get to know me. Trust me. So I do watch you very carefully. Let's go to you, Zuko. The need for this particular debate. We've heard Neil say that people have been talking about languages, etc. But I think with language, with people's first languages, then maybe moving over to English, people tend to develop accents. Why do you think it's important?
Well, I think it's very important to acknowledge those differences in accents, and where they come from specifically, as you rightfully pointed out, is the transition from whatever vernacular language that we're speaking to English specifically. But what you'll see is apparent from my argumentation in this debate is that I think that accents are nothing more than affectations to specific means of communication. Because essentially what a language is a foundation that people use in order to sort of interact. And whilst I do concede that the accent does affect the nature of that interpersonal communication, I do feel though that accents are nothing more than simply an affectation to that.
That is it, but that's from your perspective, right? Now, perception is a very important thing. Perception is the mother of all stuff-ups at the end of the day, and unless people talk to each other, get to know each other, perception can kill things. Now, I want you two to be very honest with me. I told you I was going to throw the questions out. Let's talk about some of the accents that you have a bit of a challenge with. Come on, Neil.
It's going to have to incriminate myself here.
No problem.
Yeah, no, look, I'd be lying if I said that I have an easy time with all accents. I certainly don't. I think certainly that we experience quite a lot of Afrikaans accent on this campus. I'm luckily somewhat familiar with that. Some of the other accents, maybe not as much. If you want to do some impersonation.
Okay, he's being very diplomatic here. Okay, so okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'm all right. We're gonna get back into that. Zuko, what about yourself?
Well, as far as my upbringing is concerned, and as far as the settings in which I've been conditioned, I think that accents didn't necessarily play a particularly vital role in terms of how I related to other people. So I'd say that as far as I'm concerned, I don't really have a problem sort of communicating with people who have different accents. And that's not to say that I would change my accent if I were communicating with specific group of people, but I'm just saying that it's the idea that...
So there are no perceptions. You have no preconceived ideas about people's accents at all. You want me to believe that?
I would say that if I were to say yes, I'd be lying. I think that everybody has some kind of level of subconscious perceptions with regards to how people speak and the accents that they use. But I'd say that a lot of the conscious decisions that I'd make with regards to stereotyping specific accents were beaten out of me by my mom.
Beaten out of you by your mother?
I suppose.
Okay, I mean, I'll tell you my story very quickly. I grew up in a place called Elsie's River, right? It's a cool part of the hood. You come from Elsie's too. You put your hand up there, bro. I was going to see you in the neighborhood. But anyway, that's cool. I come from Elsie's River, and we grew up in a place called Stellenbosch. Let me tell you. You live between the 27s and the 28s and the 25s and the 21s and all those people. And my mother said to me when I grew up, she says, if you ever mingle with those gangsters, I'm going to mood you. Okay? And my mother was on a drive to get me, and I can understand it though, because she didn't want me to fall into the trap that a lot of people growing up in the environment that I grew up in or fell into. And I ended up hanging out with certain types of people and ended up sounding the way I sound today. And I make no bloody excuse for it. But at the same time, when someone comes to me and says, "Hello, Kieno, how are you doing?" And I'm fine, man. Nice, let's go. I've learnt that my initial perceptions going, just because someone sounds like that, he must come from a really dodgy background, is wrong. And I've only learned that through meeting people, speaking to people. And I think on this campus, you guys come from Trek traditions, Khoisan, Zulu, is it Xhosa, you name it. And the only way you guys are going to sort out your rubbish, right, if there is to actually talk to each other and have conversations. Now that was my little bit. I end up going off on a soapbox sometimes. But let's go on with this particular debate. I think you gave two of you a bit of a respite here so that we can reset and continue this particular debate. What are some of the biggest challenges as far as you're concerned? Because before we come up with a solution for anything, we need to be able to identify what the key challenges are when it comes to access on this particular campus. And I want you to pinpoint. I don't want you to be generic and academic and professorial about it. I want you to tell me what you think that the issues are from your perspective. And let's start with Houston. Talk to me. Problems of access. We wouldn't be having this debate if there weren't issues, right? So let's talk about this.
I think the reason why this discussion is particularly important, and I think the problems that arise as soon as one starts to discuss accents specifically, is the fact that one, first of all, has to concede that there are far-reaching implications insofar as people's perceptions of what accents are concerned, right? And so, like, essentially what's happened is that people have equated the way one speaks with a specific kind of social stratum or, you know, some kind of social class or whatever the case is.
What issues do you have with accent on the campus? Okay, I want you to turn that around for me. Put it down on the floor. Now tell me, what issues do you have? What issues do you experience with accents on the campus from your personal perspective? Because I think this is how we get the debate going. Let's talk about one side.
Okay, well, as I've already pointed out, as far as I'm concerned, personally, I don't necessarily have a conscious sort of barrier to people with specific different accents.
How are you?
I'm getting there.
Yeah, okay.
I'm getting there. So insofar as I am treated as concerned, I tend to find that a lot of people subconsciously would give me more social currency because of the fact that I speak the way that I do. And the reason for that is because people have ingrained societal perceptions about what a black man ought to speak like. And that's problematic, obviously. So, yeah.
That's cool. Neil?
Yeah.
You've been very pensive on that side. What about you?
Alright, I promise you I'll get to the specific in like 10 seconds, but
You have 10.
this is a university, so let's start with the generic, as we do. So yeah, look, the thing with accents is like they inherently tend to the norm, right, in sort of all their regards. When you grow up, we know now that people develop their accents not based on their parents unless you get beaten or whatever. But
Mood, I think was the word I used.
in most circumstances, I think it was Zuko who was beaten. In most circumstances, you get the accents of your community. If you're in a room full of people, the accent or the language that is going to be spoken is usually the norm language, whether it's one most people speak or the one most people know. And then people who aren't part of that are the ones who are going to have the weird accent. So, like, it's necessarily usually a case where you're already marginalized to start with, and then the accent just serves as sort of an indication of that fact, right? In terms of what that actually ends up meaning, so the problematic part there, if I can pinpoint it, is that it's not just the communication of the person that's judged, but the things that they're saying as well, because of how they're saying it.
Now, why are you talking to me in the third person?
Because one person is a really small data set, and I think
I asked you a very, very simple question, and that was how you experience accent. And how people look at you. Don't worry, I'm not fighting with you. This is the way I do things. So let's talk about you as an English oak on a university campus, and historically people look at Stellenbosch, and by the way, I love this university. And people say, oh, it's very Afrikaans. Why are you going to university? Why are you there? So talk to me about how you get perceived on this campus.
Incidentally, I moved here from UCT to get a bit of a change this year. So
better academic.
It's worked out well. I've enjoyed it. But yeah, so I am fortunate in that regard, in that most of the time I am in the norm, maybe a bit less so over here. Occasionally I end up in an Afrikaans class, and then I don't do as well in tests as I should because I didn't understand everything. So perhaps that's the extent of the problem that I face, is sometimes I don't always fully understand what other people are saying.
Are you both feeling a bit uncomfortable at the moment? Be honest. Are you?
Is that the goal? Do we have to go?
No, it is the goal. I'll tell you why. Are you feeling uncomfortable about this session?
I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible.
No, diplomacy doesn't help anybody. You see, this is the problem with diplomats. We end up, Robert Mugabe stays head of Zimbabwe for the rest of his life because of diplomats. The bottom line here is it's an uncomfortable discussion. It's an uncomfortable issue. And because it's an uncomfortable issue, nobody wants to talk about it. You go back to your res and you go, gosh, you really sound like. Oh, my friend just meant to say to you, it's not hot. But check it back, okay? Actually, he's like a white guy. I mean, people talk about this, but there's these discussions need to be had out in the open. Now we're going to have to conclude this because I only have 20 minutes to do all of this. But I wanted to set some type of basis on which to start this discussion. I think we need to obviously identify where some of the issues are. And I think the two of you hit on it. But I want to move on to where to from here. Because it's one thing having a diversity week and one debate. And then next week, what happens? Everybody moves off into their own directions and the discussions stop. The challenge moving forward when it comes to diversity and accents on this campus. What do you think the solutions are? Let's start with you, Neil.
Thanks. Yeah, look, for me, I think you can have a lot of chatting about how we should be more accepting of other people's accents, and that's good, and maybe we'll be able to achieve that. But we do need to remember also that we're going to be in the broader world pretty soon, and I think that a lot of it also needs to be you looking at your own accent, and firstly, just be proud of that. Once you've done that, you'll be able to be confident of it, and once you've done that, you'll be able to communicate well, whatever your accent happens to be. But accept your accent and then work on your communication within that.
I like that. Zuko?
The problem that I have with Neil's argument, insofar as is concerned, like one going out into the real world, is that it necessarily implies some kind of change, right? The problem with that is that one needs to justify, first of all, whether or not the change is necessary, and it's not. Because of the fact that, well, I feel that accents, insofar as specific, groups of people are concerned, are always going to be an inherent thing. And regardless of whether or not people sort of have a specific perception towards that, people should value that that's inherent. So in terms of like policy making, I don't think there's any sort of concrete thing that any specific kind of organization can do. What it requires, though, is a conscious decision on each and every single individual's part to buy into the idea of diversity, to buy into the idea of,
How do they do that?
Well, first of all, by having...
buy into something. I don't see someone and go, "Ooh, I'm going to buy into you," unless they're really hot. But how do you buy into something which is not tangible?
Well, it starts off with having conversations like this one, right? And the problem with conversations like these, especially when it happens in, sort of informal social settings, is that people tend to be very emotionally invested, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what it does become a bad thing is when people start to lose sight of, the rationality of the arguments that they're making. So it necessarily comes down to a divorcement of, one's emotional investment in a specific kind of issue, and looking at the actual logical and pragmatic arguments that need to be made in that regard. So in terms of how do people buy in, that's simply a matter of first of all by exposing oneself to situations like these where they're forced to have uncomfortable conversations, etc.
I'm not being rude by looking at my clock, because we need to include you into all of this, and we're going to wrap up by talking very briefly, and I emphasize very briefly about what management can do to create an environment where this type of, and it's all about discussions. You guys are sounding so academic, which is really cool, which is why you're here, right? And it's great. We both said some really interesting stuff. The bottom line is, you actually talk to each other, man. Go and talk to other people who sound different to you. The accent disappears. I have people phoning into my show going, "Kieno, I don't, these black people. They phone in and they talk about vehicle. What is a vehicle?" And I go, "Man, President Thabo Mbeki was kicked out because he was chatted up. Then another president took over for a short while. What was his name?" And she goes, I said, "What?" Bottom line is, you get into an area of disadvantage when you have to talk speaking out someone else's language, in English, trying to pronounce certain names. We live in a diverse South Africa, and I think we need to embrace the fact that we're not all going to sound the damn same, right? And you all agree with that? Yeah. Are you all going to start talking to each other? Yeah. What? Okay, listen, I'm leaving. Okay, quickly, what can management do to create a much better environment on campus? And be honest, I have to think on the spot now.
I think Stellenbosch University specifically had the right idea in mind by having Diversity Week, because it allows for that platform of engagement to happen, and it allows for those kinds of things to be perpetuated. As far as other like mechanical things that management can do, I'm not really sure, because of the fact that we've all conceded that it's such a very intangible thing. Like, it's a very sort of ethereal kind of issue that like one can't pinpoint to a specific direction in terms of
What about MFM as a radio station and accents? Do you think they've got a? Oof, that's an upsetting people here. I'm just asking. Do you think? I mean, I know our radio station, for example, you've got to sound a certain way. I'm saying rubbish, man. We told one of the girls, no, stop sounding so coloured. I mean, that's not. I have a big problem with that, right? And I take on some people who try and push that. So, do you think, for example, encouraging different accents on a platform such as that could work?
Oh yes, because that allows for exposure.
I'm not saying they don't do it, by the way. The editor, the station manager is really going to give me skip. What about you, Neil?
Yeah.
Moving forward, what can be done?
Look, obviously what they're going to do is make the space. I think the big policy decisions they'll make are about language. You tell them what to do there, and then we have the conversations about accents and make sure that gets.
And how are you going to get those conversations going?
We're doing one now. We'll keep doing
Oh,
these.
this is a debate. Everybody's watching you. There's no.
You're going to come down soon.
Okay, great. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Listen, I just wanted you to give it up for the two of them. Thanks. Alright, it takes, you need a huge set of pineapples to sit in front of a group and have a debate like this. Now, I'm going to open this to the floor. Is there anybody that would like to talk about any of the stuff that we raised, including your own experiences on campus? So we're going to take the mic to you. What is that? You're not allowed to do that, but you're going to get into trouble. Oh. Okay, so what's your name? Introduce yourself, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Noah. I'm doing international studies. Well, I think this great debate was great, but for me, I really feel like you were very diplomatic. Like, this conversation is going to end here. Like, there's so much more. You guys were really beating around the bush, not getting to the point. I mean, for me, personally, speaking like a coconut is not a compliment, and a lot of people think that's cool. And you get shunned upon, or you get, as you said, social credit or currency because of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like you could have said more instead of beating around the bush, because of that, it's going to stop here. No one's going to tweet about it and talk about it. They're going to be like, oh yeah.
What do you think people should do? You pointed out what the issue is. Now I'd like to know what you think should be done. So let's talk honestly.
Well, we live in a university, right? And we talk a lot about social freedom and the right to say whatever you want to say. We don't really have that in Stellenbosch because people are always being politically correct or diplomatic. And we need to make those mistakes. We need to have those arguments in order to get to a specific place, which is not happening in Stellenbosch.
Thank you very much. I want you to have on stage. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Thank you very much for that. Very valuable. Very valuable indeed. And she's right, it's not beat around the bush.
Hi, my name is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I actually want to ask a question. I work for the Matie, the student newspaper, and recently there's been some chatter and conversation on campus about the possibility of bringing out two separate newspapers, an Afrikaans one and an English one. Now, do you think that improves diversity or in fact lessens diversity?
I'll to be honest, I think it's a rubbish idea. I think if you mix the languages in the newspaper, it's your content that should be compelling. I've got a friend called Michelle from Breda, okay? She is the editor of Sari. She sends me Sari every blinking month. But I like the content. I know more about women now that I read Sari. But it's about the content. Mix up the languages. I don't see a problem with it. I really don't see a problem with that. And people who speak English, who don't like to speak Afrikaans, can learn how to read in Afrikaans. And vice versa.
I'm Matie. I'm part of the debating society. I'd like to make a comment regarding the accents. To start with, I'd like to take on Neil. Neil can't pronounce my name even now. I've known Neil for over a year.
What's his name, Neil? We're going to give him a lesson.
His name is much later.
He doesn't know how to pronounce it.
No, you help him.
Okay.
Okay, because listen, this is the thing about having a discussion.
Yeah.
If you push someone in a corner and say you're being a football, you're not really going to have a conversation. You're going to get someone to back up. So I think a big part of the debate and the discussion is to assist people. So I want you to assist Neil in pronouncing your name correctly.
Okay, Lee. Dear Lee, my name is Majarete. It's spelled M-A-J-L ETJE. The point I'm trying to make here is that we must be willing to step on each other's toes if we are going to get anywhere. So Neil has stepped on my toes so many times that he's now my buddy. We must all do that. That's how we're going to get over it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello.
I just wanted to make a comment.
What's your name?
My name is Kafiso.
Kafiso.
Yes.
Hi, Kafiso.
I wanted to make a comment because I felt like maybe they didn't feel as open as possible to speak out, but I just wanted to say that there are a lot of accents that I do have a problem with on campus, and some of them are pretty funny.
Like which one?
But okay, I do preferably wish I could speak like a cousin, because I really like the way they speak. I find it very hard sometimes to talk to 100% Afrikaans guy in English, because I feel so sorry when he can't pronounce the words like properly, and I'm just there trying to catch them. And then sometimes I do kind of get a bit dazed out when I speak to someone like a person that doesn't necessarily know English that well.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. So that's like the honest truth, and I feel like you guys should just be free to say it, like what he said. Like behind closed doors, we don't mimic everyone anyway, you know. And I feel like we shouldn't be shy to just say, yeah, I wish I could speak like a cousin, or I can do an Indian perception very, very well.
Okay, Zuko's asking whether imitating an accent is justified. I reckon it's about context. There's an ad that runs on our radio station, coffee, madam, go with everything. You know, it's done in a jocular manner. There's an ad of a coloured guy who stole a chicken. And I think it's Expander. People complain about it. People are going to complain. You never make everybody happy all the time. But do you guys think these two need to be a little bit more brave when it comes to... You guys are leaders, right? You're going to go out there, you're going to lead this world. You need to sometimes say it as it is. Right? But it's one thing to say it as it is. I mean, you can be a total chop and upset everybody. But you can say it as it is with the correct tone so as to stimulate debate and discussion. And I think, do you agree with me? Yeah. Yeah, like two of you. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think your guys' discussion was in vain in the sense that I feel like what you guys said is one academic library.
You didn't tell me what your name
Oh,
is.
sorry, sorry. Where this discussion has to go is, why do we look at black people and colored people and look at them as uneducated? Because that is what it's about. And when we look at black people and colored people with a certain accent, we look at them and say, oh, you have a white accent. So why are we putting the white accent above the colored accent, the Indian accent, and the black accent?
It's a very good question. Let's see if our guests can answer that.
Well,
Go.
I think the reason that happens, and the reason why people like either consciously or subconsciously make a decision to do so, is because of the fact that like we come from a past where being black was necessarily equated with being in a specific social stratum. And if you are black, that necessarily is synonymous to being uneducated. Whereas if you're white and you went to a posh Model C school or a private school, you were taught how to speak English properly, or whatever the case is, right? And I think that's just, it's not an arbitrary coincidence of events, right? Because I mean it happened and it had a detrimental effect on the kind of society that we live in. But I feel though that if, for example, take into account a hypothetical situation where the roles were reversed and the vast majority of the people in this country were educated and they spoke in what we regard as black accents, then that perception that people have by associating educatedness to that kind of accent would exist, right? So I feel that I suppose.
Do you feel Archbishop Tutu is uneducated? What type of accent does he speak with? My point here is, you asked that question. question, and I think it's an important question to ask. Yes, certain languages, like for me, I tell you, I grew up around a lot of gangsters who spoke a certain way, right? My mother didn't like that. So I, in a way, was forced to hang around with certain types of people who spoke a certain way, speak the way I do, but I make no excuses for it. But the one thing you must understand, that in any society, a particular language, a particular accent will have a particular currency. It's not something you're going to get rid of tomorrow. And the only way you break down any of those barriers is to start. I always tell the poor Jewish people and the Muslim people, you guys really don't have kids together now. That way, you're going to get rid of all the issues that you guys have in the Middle East. I mean, it's a bit simplistic. But what I'm saying is people need to spend time and mix with other people. You need to get to know someone before you get to appreciate them, before you get to respect them. And what your point, the question that you asked is very much based on perception. And perception is going to exist. It's up to us to break down those perceptions through getting to understand people. Then the accent disappears. Do you believe that Zuko should be speaking in a black accent? Why not? Good. It's about respecting people and from whence they come, essentially. Any other comments? Thank you for that, by the way. Hello. We've got a microphone. Can we get a microphone to the young lady? Thank you very much. All right, people, to be brutally honest here, eh? This is about honesty. This is where the discussion should really begin. Okay, what's your name and tell me what you'd like to say.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. Just about speaking in accents in general, you have an accent. I'm just wondering if your accent, if you have to have like one specific accent. Because often I see, like throughout your life, you form part of different social groups.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're at home, you'll speak like Kali, from Bala South. And then you'll go to a white model school and your friends all speak, maybe perhaps sound like white. And it just feels more comfortable for you to speak like that.
You're basically fitting with your surroundings as well.
Yes, it's just fitting you with surroundings, not because you want to change your art, just you feel...
You're not the only one.
Feel more comfortable. But now, the thing is, like, often when you do that, people judge you for being fake or, being pretentious. And I'm just wondering, does each person have to have one specific
One.
Is it...
You do?
Can you change it as
You do what you're comfortable with. To hell with everybody else. Seriously. No, and it's something you've got to work on, eh? It's a bit like business. There's a guy, I forget his name is Jack Ma. Okay, there we go. He started Alibaba.com. I'm sure lots of you bought goods on Alibaba.com. 23 out of 24 of his friends told him it's a crap idea. We always look for affirmation from other people. It's your real power from within is just that, from within, having confidence in yourself. Musi Maimani is leader of the opposition. Now, I've spoken to Musi on different platforms. Musi can sound so Model C when he's doing a presentation, but if you hear him at the end, when they were still in that committee on Nkandla, then the brother rolls eat. Yeah, everybody does it. Build your confidence.
My name is Matie. I also just want to share something. I feel like it goes beyond like black, white, Indian. Because also within the black people.
Give me 2 seconds. Can someone call that young lady with the pink? There we go. No, there. No, the one lady behind you talking. Where is she? Just call her. You want to come join me on stage quickly? No, I'm just asking because there's someone trying to have a conversation here, and I think it's rude. You're going to be part of this. Give someone an opportunity to speak so we can hear what they have to say. And, if we don't mind, I think a lot of it goes around respect as well. Okay, so if you can continue what you were saying.
I was saying that within black community, within black people as well, we have variations in our languages. With me, for example, I'm always accused of not being able to speak Setswana properly because I don't speak in a certain accent. But I grew up in Kimberley, and in Kimberley there's Afrikaans, there's Xhosa, there's Setswana. So in our language, when I speak Setswana, I borrow from the other languages that I grew up speaking because I grew up multilingual.
Yeah.
So obviously when I speak to Tswana, there's going to be Afrikaans in it, there's going to be English, there's going to be some Xhosa in there somewhere. So it's not just about focusing on different races like black, white.
Who complains about it?
Tswana speaking people will accuse me of not being able to speak Tswana properly.
All of it.
A lot of them.
Hang out with the ones who don't have a problem with you.
Cool. I'll do that.
Alright. Alright, we have one or two more. This is rather interesting. You know, I'm finding that there's a lot of value in these discussions here. And my thing here to everybody who's running this, try and make this live for longer than a week. I would challenge the radio station to maybe even have a discussion on it. Have a discussion on it. And let people phone in. Let people give their opinions on it as well. Okay, who's next?
I am.
Okay, we've got one or two more. We're going to have to wrap. This class, I think, starts with you. Oh, there you are. Ah, yes. Hello.
My name is Mafali, and a question I have is not necessarily for white people or for Indian people. A question I have is to black people. Why am I not allowed to speak English like an English person, yet still speak Sepedi like Mutwampe? Like, why do you have to view me as a coconut or as a snob or spoiled because of the way I speak, even though I still embrace my culture and speak my language equally as well? Why is that a problem for other black people?
But what about the black people who know you well, your friends? Do they have a problem with it?
Well, it depends.
Then you need to redefine the term friends.
If the black person I'm a friend with can't speak their own mother tongue properly, then they don't have a problem with it. But if they can, then they do have a problem with it. You understand?
Okay, I got you. I think these are important questions. Shall we move on? Hello? No problem. We need a microphone expert on that side, please. Thank you very much. Oh, there we go. Go. No.
Is it on?
There you go.
Hello, I'm Maxine. I just like to say that as a colored person, when one's Afrikaans praat ek so, en mense kyk my as hulle snaaks aan, and that's also another thing when it's not necessarily just the if you say if your whole language is not English and you are Xhosa, Zulu, whatever, and you speak in English, you speak with it. Some people speak with an accent, but it's also the Afrikaans that has an accent. So generally, colored people look at me funny when I speak in Afrikaans, because I should speak like a colored Afrikaans person. So it's like, "Hi, my bro," all those things.
Hello, Now, listen, the person who speaks that way should be respected as well for speaking, and it's really that mutual respect. And you can't overcome any of the stuff if you don't mix with people from different backgrounds and different accents, because we can have academic debates about it and it'll achieve nothing. It needs to be lived. Okay, I've got time for one more. Is there any? The lady in the red. You know the lady? Sorry about that. No. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, where? Oh, you don't look like a lady either. Okay.
Sorry, it's fine.
Okay, so and then we'll end up over there.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make a comment based on what my lady said.
Yes.
So I think it depends on the environment, the context of the environment where you come from. Like for instance, what about someone who comes from a royal family like myself? I come from a royal family, so whenever I get sent home, so okay, so when I get back home, so I must make sure that I get away with this accent. Maybe I inherited a Stellenbosch. Maybe when I get a flight or a bus, I must make sure that I leave it here. I'll get it back when I get here. So. And another thing from what you said earlier on, you said we must help each other with the pronunciation of course. When I was doing a test there, so someone laughed at me because I couldn't pronounce some of the Afrikaans words. So his question was like, where you come from? Instead of helping me, he said, where you come from? Good, something like that. So I was offended somehow, but then I said, it's okay. I'm not gonna then I guess if you... Yeah.
No, listen, it's about helping, and it's, I think if there's a culture of respect, people are going to have giggles, man. I mean, and help other people, and I think that will go a long way. We've got the last...
Yeah,
gentleman. What's your name, sir?
My name is Matie. I'm so to speak in person. So my viewpoint is actually going to Botany. I'm not answering here, I'm just maybe giving a certain insight.
It's important, yeah?
It's a bit disadvantageous for you to master someone's language, or not master per se, but speak it better than your own mother language. And the other thing that I'm trying to say is towards the guys who call themselves coconut, or who are classified as coconuts. I think the problem with such kind of people is social insecurity. I think they're insecure, so they're trying by all means to fit in. Because I'm not sure who are they imitating. Because if you can say they're imitating white people, they are not speaking as such also.
He's giving his point of view, it's fine, let him give it. Is that it? So you believe they're imitating someone?
No, my concern actually was that one of social insecurity. I was trying to raise that one of like trying to fit in.
You know that sometimes, because of the way perception works, it works in people's favor sometimes, and there's a big negative to that. And I get what you're saying. You want to comment on that? We're going to wrap this up now, ladies and gentlemen. And okay, you want one more? I'll give you an opportunity. You wanted to say something? Zuko.
I just wanted to note that the fact that I speak the way I do is not because I feel socially insecure for being black or whatever the case is. The fact that I speak the way I do is as a result of my conditioning. I just happen to go to schools where people speak like this. I just happen to go to schools where I was taught to speak like this. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I feel insecure about myself. It's got everything to do, however, with the fact that I've been conditioned in a specific way. That's the crux of where accents come from.
Amen, brother. Moving on. Okay, listen, I studied journalism, so I can't really count all that well. Introduce yourself, and then, okay, one more. Because you have such a lovely smile, eh? Okay.
Hello, my name is Judy. My name is Judy, and this responds to the guy at the back. Why should I apologize that I can articulate well? I'm not saying that you cannot articulate well, but I articulate the way that I do, and I get the point across, but why should I be apologetic about the fact that I'm able to converse and I'm able to bring across a message in a specific way? And secondly, what really angers me is that now he, as a black person, will see me as less of a black person. I am black, I can speak closer, and I'm proud of it. The way that I speak has nothing to do with the fact of me feeling socially insecure. Like the gentleman said over there, it's the way that we've been conditioned, but at the same time, it's the mindset. Because we speak in an English accent, we don't kid ourselves and think that we're white, we're black.
Okay. Yeah, okay, welcome your radio station, please. I like this community, it's really cool. Okay?
To the Fatty's comment, I would like to say I personally feel that people are intimidated by your accent, and because I feel like there is a black inferiority complex where people feel that because I'm black, I don't fit with you. And with the guy at the back who says it's sad that we can speak English better than we can speak our home language. I am actually one of those people who speaks English better than my home language. It's got nothing to do with me trying to be a coconut or trying to fit in. It's actually just got to, I actually blame my parents. It's sad, yes. But now that I speak English, it doesn't mean you can't talk to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to look down on you. That's your own self-esteem issue.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
No, one more, sorry. Hello, sir. I'm in corner.
Where are you?
I'm near the right, I think.
My right, you think?
Left, sorry.
There you go, okay.
My name is Choir Flashmob.
Okay.
And I would like to think I'm very proficient in both languages, Xhosa and English.
Yeah.
When I will introduce myself, I will say, "Go buy a catch." I'm doing my But I can also say, and then obviously other people find it hard to have a click when they pronounce my surname. They'll call me Lady Gaga or I understand. And back to I think personally speaking, because I grew up in the villages and I went to a traditional boys' school as well. So I got taught to speak in a certain way when I speak English. When I'm home, I've got to speak Xhosa in a certain way. And with social insecurity, it goes both ways. Like when you call someone coconut, obviously
reflects on you yourself, your insecurities as a person.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean that just because they can't speak their home language the way you can makes you better. And I believe that language is not a measure of intelligence. You can't say someone's smarter than you because they speak better English than you, or they speak English in a accent that reflects where they come from, whether it's colored Xhosa or black accent apparently. So I like to think that English is not a measure of intelligence, but where you do come from does matter. And I understand where you're coming from, but you should know where you come from and try to be at least proficient in both your own language and English. Yeah.
And I think that was a very fitting comment to end off on today. Listen guys, thank you very much. And if I can ever come back and get involved in more of these discussions, this is probably one of the most awesomest, there's not a word like that, right, campuses I've ever been to. So, you guys rock, thank you very much.
Thank you. The debate continues. Please watch out, Bonfire. There's a competition also on this specific debate, so just check on Bonfire. Thank you very much. See you in a critical hour and at tonight's markets.